Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, and today we're going to be playing Hearthstone on a budget. As today I'm going to show you a very nice, pretty effective free-to-play Paladin deck. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here is the deck, just so you can see it right here. These are all basic cards. You do not need to do anything other than to get to level 10 for Paladin to use these. And you'll see that this deck relies mainly on swarming the board, putting as many creatures out as possible. Some of them are small, some are bigger. You see a lot of multi-ball creatures. Which are ones that summon an additional creature, and you have cards like Raid Leader, which buff up other units in Storm and Champion. Raid Leader, not too great of a card, one that you can replace. Remember, this is a budget deck. This is free to play. This is one that you should be able to play from the get-go and actually do okay in ranked constructed play earlier, at least help you learn the basics of the game. So let me just go ahead and... I think this deck is probably best explained by showing you a game. So let's go ahead and take a look at a game here between me versus a hunter. And a lot of times when you play hunter, you'll play aggro here. So the first thing you want to think about in terms of mulliganing is you just want to get low cards as much as possible early game plays. I keep the weapon just because I really like True Silver Champion. It's a really good card to turn things around in the deck, especially because you tend to get 2 kills off of 1 card. And this deck relies both on tempo, getting as much on the board as possible, and trying to maintain that tempo approach going forward, but you want to also have card advantage when you can grab it. So this hunter here plays the coin because he goes second and puts out a loot hoarder, and you'll see this deck has a few more cards than say my little basic deck here. But there we go. We have my first little grunt of a soldier out, just the 1-1 versus the 2-1. I don't mind trading just to give him a card because, like I said, my first goal in the early game with this deck is to have more stuff on the board than he has. So turn 3, Earn for Grizzly's an okay play just as a taunt, but I'd rather not throw a taunt when there's going to be no threat on the board. So I'll give him a card, play my Orc here to get 2 units out on the board. So right now a 0 for 0 trade because it didn't cost me, and it cost me a turn to get that, and he gets an extra card. So overall, still early game, but that eagle horn bow, kind of a pisser right there. He does take 2 damage. He does take out my Raven Tusk Orc. That's not what they're called. But I top deck an Acidic Swamp Ooze, which is fantastic for me right here because that takes out the weapon, and so I get to attack straight away. Not too bad. So this is kind of the early game situation that you want to find yourself in. I have a Consecration, I have a True Silver Champion, so if he starts to stack the board, that would be great. This is an old video, it's actually pre-Unleash the Hounds buff, so I mean it's just a matter of this deck may be a little different from some aggro decks you see later on, but that secret is a little bit problematic to me because I do have a Frostwolf Warlord I can drop, and I do drop it here, even though it could be Snipe, but that's I guess a decent way to test if it's Snipe, and it's not. So my next worry is that it's going to be Explosive Trap, which would mean that all of my units are going to get destroyed except for that Frostwolf Champion. So I'm going to at least trade, give him another card here. And once again, just do I attack, do I risk the Explosive Trap? And you know what, maybe I should, but this video is actually a bit of a post-commentary, so I don't, for whatever reason, kind of chicken out. Don't want my other units to explode, although I don't know what there really is to gain by not just triggering the secret early, because now there's an Abomination, which you can see I'm facing rare cards, I'm facing common cards, versus just my strictly basic deck. And now that Abomination is a little bit of a problem, just because when I kill him he's going to do 2 damage, so even if that's an Explosive Trap or not, my other units are dead anyway. Now I can run them into the Abomination, or I could use the True Silver Champion to cut into him. Oh, lots of options available. Could drop a Frostwolf Warlord and have 2 really big creatures on the board early. That actually may be a smarter play here. But like I said, this is a video I did a little while ago. Maybe not as great of a player as I am now. Not that I'm that great now. But there we go. Let's see if it's the Explosive Trap, and nope. Misdirection. And I think that was me just more back in this time not being as well aware of the cards, because Misdirection is a real nasty card when you have your big unit like that attack and go straight for your own face. So that's 7 damage I didn't need to take, and I have Lord of the Arena out, which is a taunt. It's a big taunt. It's not my favorite taunt because it only has 5 health. And usually I prioritize higher health taunt units, but you know what? It's a free deck. So right away you see 5 damage there, and he chooses to take out the Frostwolf instead of my taunt, which is interesting, but I guess a defensible play. But now let's see, I have my Lord of the Arena, and it's going to be True Silver Champion time just because that's 4 damage to take out the taunt. Kind of perfect placement here. don't have a lot left to do, so I'm kind of flipping between reinforcing or the Iron for a Grizzly. And typically in this situation, you don't want to token out a creature unless you have mana to spare, otherwise you want to play something from your hand, because you want to get your strongest units out there. Now I do have Blessing of Might in here to buff up units. There are some other good buff cards that Paladin has, like Blessing of Kings, that you can throw in just maybe to add to this deck. There's a lot of ways to add to this deck, but Gladiator's Longbow, now that is a, well, let's say, what did I say before? 5 health is not too great for a taunt unit, and there's why, because it just died. And because of the Gladiator's Longbow, which is an epic item, it didn't actually give him any damage. So, fantastic there. Now I have 8 resources, or 8 mana crystals. And there's a few different plays I can make. I mean, I could reinforce, I could play a Stormwind Champion to at least buff up my bear a little bit and go for the face. I could try and play the token and then play a Frostwolf Warlord. Not too awful, I guess, but really waffling here. The one thing I'm not going to be doing right now is using my True Silver Champion to the Hunter's face. And that's just because I like holding on to my weapons as long as possible. To use them, yes, I do risk getting them destroyed through an ooze or some other creature, Bloodsail Corsair, which nobody plays, and you really shouldn't ever. But anything that'll just destroy or degrade your weapon, try and avoid that. But he's going to be going after the bear here, so I'll take that trade. I don't mind him taking out a 3/3 taunt with that longbow and then not getting other danger here, but he still has 8 resources. And that scares me a little bit, because this is a hunter who has me down to half health, and you got to start really worrying about their hero ability for 2 damage each time. But once again, I've kind of set my goal at this point, which is to have more creatures on the board, but unfortunately Reckless Rocketeer, which is, I'm really surprised to see in this deck, but I guess because if this is more of an aggro deck, you'd want to, he's trading a lot more than maybe you'd want to do in an aggro deck. If he had gone for my face this whole time, I may be in a bit more trouble. But right now, Sinjin's Shield Master, best time to get that right here. And I will go from having nothing on the board to more on the board. And I could use my True Silver to take out a unit here, whether it's the Sergeant or just go for the face or something. But, I mean, I'm a little hesitant to go for one of the units when they're such low cost. And I could potentially take them out. So, go for the face. Decide to start maybe a race a little bit. Once again, don't know if it's really the best play, but it's the play I made here. Because my goal, like I said again and again with this deck, is just to have more creatures on the board. Because even though this is a basic deck, I don't necessarily have all the fancy cards that maybe my opponent has. And I have beaten decks with legendaries with this deck before. It's just, this is the game that I happen to record here. The thing is that you got to try and play smart with this one. You got to take advantage of the tempo. You've got to really try and hold on to the board. You'll see he has more cards than me, but I have more stuff on the board. Actually, it's about even here until, of course, let's see. So there is my Shield Master. You could attack it, but there's the Arcane Shot. So, question now is that he can't clear my board. Well, with that Eagle Horn Bow, he can clear my board, but I think if I'm seeing this right, he's going to go for my face instead. So that's going to be extra damage. I'm going to be down to 9 health. But I can take out his creatures with what I have. And actually, there's an Acidic Swamp Ooze. Again, didn't that happen the last time he drew a bow? I just was able to get that right here. So Consecrate, is that more of an obvious play here? I was kind of holding off on Consecrating before, just because it's a 2/1 crystal or 1 mana units, and I don't really like using Consecrate to do that. But on the other hand, I am at 9 health. That does put me on a clock in terms of how quickly the Hunter can kill me, especially since he's showing he's playing some charge cards and some aggressive cards. And if this was the more recent patch with Unleash the Hounds possibly being on the horizon, I might be a little more careful to not put 4 creatures on the board. But, I mean, that's the way this deck works right here, is that you just want to have as much as you can and then drop something like a Stormwind Champion just to buff up your units. Because right now he's down to 6 health, and I can possibly win next turn. Well, okay, there's a multi-shot to stop that a little bit. Still not sure what the other card in his hand is right now, but it looks like he wants it to maybe be a finisher, so maybe it's another Rocketeer. But right now, this is going to be the game, and as I give the well played, buff up my units, you can see the positioning buttons right there. But there you go. Use this deck to go, at least to do something fun or interesting on the constructed play. Like I said, it's a good starter deck. It's solid. And I mean, what I really like about it is just the fact that if you're starting out with this, it's not too hard to play, and it teaches you some important concepts to try and make good trades so that you can get things on the board. But otherwise, this is Way to Fail, just like I said, with a brief look at this deck. And I hope you found this video helpful, or at least interesting. There's going to be some more budget guides or some low-cost Hearthstone guides in the works for me. This is kind of one to start out with. If you're just starting out in the open beta, this is a deck that you can make pretty quickly after starting up the game to at least get started, try and get some stuff rolling. So that's it for now. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Look out for more Hearthstone and other gaming content in the near future. This is Way to Fail. See you next time.